Hi, I'm Miss Clark and I am here to talk to you about why you might want to do classical civilizations at A-level. So if you're someone who wants to do a little bit of history, is interested in politics, perhaps likes history of art, drama, a bit of philosophy, enjoys English literature, wants to do some or all of them, but can't fit it into your timetable, then classical civilizations is the thing for you because we cover a little bit of each of those subjects within our topic area. However, also, if you are someone who is really keen on the sciences and is going to be doing a lot of those subjects that involve hard data and investigation and analysis, then if you're someone who wants to show to a university that you can communicate and you can explain your findings and what you've been working on, as well as to be able to analyse and come to those findings in the first place, then Class Civ is a really, really good, well-rounded subject to show that you are going to have those essay writing skills and those presentation skills. Perhaps, however, you're just someone who really, really enjoyed the Greek myths. Maybe you really enjoyed a bit of Roman history that you did when you were a bit younger. You're really, really interested in areas of the ancient Near East, Persia or Egypt or places like that. Maybe you just enjoy learning about other civilizations and how they have shaped our world and left us with the history that we have been left with, and how the history of those other civilizations has been used or misused by people throughout the history since, in the 2,000 or 3,000 years since those events took place. All of those things are part of a classical civilizations A-level. It's a really, really wide and broad subject. So how can you do Class Civ A-level? All you need to do is be interested in doing it. There is absolutely no requirement for Latin or Greek. Everything is studied in translation. This is not a languages paper. Okay. There's also no need to have done classical civilizations at GCSE. You will not be at a disadvantage. You will probably find that you have a fair bit of the background knowledge, and anything that we have covered at GCSE we will go through, and you'll have the expertise not only of the member of staff in the classroom, but also with some of your classmates who will be able to fill you in on some areas. The modules are different to those that have been done at GCSE, so you will not be in any way, shape or form at a disadvantage. By having done previous essay subjects, you will find that you have the skills and you will be taught any skills that you don't have already. So, what makes up classical civilization A-level? Well, firstly, you have a core paper. In your first year, you would do the Odyssey. So in the lower sixth year, you do the Odyssey, which is a story about Odysseus, one of the heroes at Troy, who created the Trojan horse, who was massively involved in the capture of the city of Troy, trying to make his way home, and the 10-year journey, the epic trials that he goes through, meeting monsters, beautiful women that he tends to get kidnapped by, and in the end going home to fight off the suitors who've been fighting for the hand of his wife in his 10-year absence. In your second year, upper sixth year, you will study the Aeneid, which is the story of another man who leaves Troy. He is not on the Greek side. He's on the Trojan side. The city's been captured, and he is told by the gods to flee and escape with his family, with his son and his father, and to go to Rome, to Italy, to found a new Troy, a Troy that will become the city of Rome. So it's a foundation story of the city. Once again, it features monsters, all the myths that you may have come across, and all of the struggles that Aeneas goes through. They are two incredibly foundational works of ancient literature. It is very hard to read anything written in the modern world, and particularly in the Western world, that has not been influenced in some way, shape or form by these texts, because they have been so hugely influential, as well as being great fun to read. So that paper, you do some questions on each text, and then there's a small question about comparing the two. Then there are two option papers. We are really fortunate in the classics department that we have staff who have got a wide variety of different interests. So there are two choices. There is paper one, You have to do either the invention of the barbarian, which is all about the Greeks' struggle against the Persians, so investigating the Persian Empire and the way in which it was created in the minds and imagination of the Athenians as something that was other, that was wrong. So a depiction, a creation of an image of an uncivilized, barbaric place. And we study the reality of that, the flip side of that coin. Or Greek art. So the first is taught by Mr. Nicol, Greek art is taught by Miss Coombs, which explores some of the fantastic developments in sculpture, in pottery, technological and artistic developments that have influenced people right through to Michelangelo, Bernini, huge sculpture creators. So if you're particularly interested in the history of art. So what we do each year is we see what the major interests are of the class as a whole, and hopefully that fits with the timetabling that you do one of those options in the lower sixth. Then in the upper sixth, you do either politics of the late Republic. So that is looking at how the democracy in the Roman world collapsed and fell apart and ended ultimately in the murder of Julius Caesar and the installation after his death of the principle of having a sole ruler. So how does 500 years of democracy come to an end? And we study that last 50 years of that democracy tearing itself to pieces. Or you study the beginnings of democracy with Miss Coombs, Democracy in the Athenians. So them really putting together what is one of the world's most direct democracies that's ever existed. Unfortunately, only if you happen to be a man and not a slave. But it's a really, really fascinating place to think about all of the major things that are cropping up at the moment in the world: tolerance, truth, justice, what it means to vote, what freedom of speech is. So 4 really, really interesting papers to choose from. And we try every year to give you as a class a fair amount of choice in which one you do. There is no getting away from the fact that Classical Civilization A-Level is an essay paper. There are no ginormous essays. It's not just one big essay. They are broken down into 10 mark, 20 mark and 30 mark questions. You only write one 30-mark question per exam paper, so that's only 3 overall. The massive bonus is that those question styles are the same across all of the papers. So you will spend 2 years getting to grips with exactly the same style of questions, and it is only 3 styles of questions. So you will get an awful lot of practice, and we will teach you all of those skills. So even if you are not feeling like you are a massively confident essay writer, don't worry. We spend a lot of time practicing those skills. Okay, here is some sort of student experiences of what they have found about Class Civ. So the box in grey, Class Civ is a bit of everything: politics, philosophy, art, literature. It's really relevant to our day-to-day lives in the themes that come up: love, death, tolerance, democracy, power, and in the history that it's left us with. But it's also an opportunity to study a world that's so different to our own, with a huge array of distinct cultures and priorities, the differences between the Greeks and the Romans, the Persians. There's an area of classics for absolutely everyone. Another person said that men grappled with exactly the same issues that we do now: life, death, the gods, sex, love, family, children, education, the nature of the world, our origins and development, past, money, health, status, other cultures, friendship, power, patriotism, politics, law, crime, justice, empire, war. I mean, the list is endless, and all of those will come up. But as well as that, classics and Classical Civilization particularly encourage you to think outside the box about what you want to do with the rest of your life. So this is a quote from a student who says they always wanted to study physics at university, but it was Classical Civilization that introduced me to the idea of combining physics with philosophy. It's the Swiss Army knife of all subjects, a really good description for it. And this person would recommend it to anyone who is intellectually curious in any way, shape or form. Finally, what might you do with a Classical Civilization A-Level? Well, the whole point is it is an incredibly interdisciplinary subject. So after A-level, you can go everywhere and do anything you want. So you might decide that classics is really for you, and you want to go off and study classics, archaeology, anthropology, ancient Near Eastern studies, Egyptology, or you might be at heart a scientist, and you might go off and study medicine, biomed, biology, but with a greater comprehension and understanding of where those subjects started, of the world, the academic, intellectual world in which all of those subjects were first invented, because it was the Greeks who in the Western world gave us those subjects. They were the ones who started them off. It might be that you take this on further into history, politics, international relations, law. All of those issues come up in all of our topic areas. It might be that you go on for languages or English literature, philosophy, psychology, sociology, geography. Okay, all of those, particularly human geography, come up a fair amount in classical civilizations. It might be that you're an engineer. Okay, I have taught classical civilization students who've actually found that that notion of thinking outside the box is a really transferable skill to trying to solve problems in engineering, to apply bits of knowledge that they have from elsewhere, from other topic areas, other skills that they have to the problem that they've got in front of them. It might be that you go on to do fine art or history of art. In particular, that's a subject that has got an awful lot of influence from the classical world. So classical civilizations is really, really useful in the mythology and the stories and in the history of the art that you do in class civ. So pretty much anything really. And in terms of employability, employers really, really like such an interdisciplinary subject. As Edith Hall, who's the professor of classics at King's College London, has said, that studying Mediterranean antiquity superbly equips individuals to think sociopolitically and to persuade people, to be a good communicator, orally, visually, in writing. It hones transferable skills like criticism and culturally relativist analysis. Okay? And the Greeks, they were at the heart of many, many academic subjects. So it really gets you to think about what it is to study a subject that you're studying. And it also might just give you some really interesting food for thought in your kind of personal life after you have gone on to study something perhaps completely different. Beyond university, classics is a massively employable subject for the fact that you are not one thing and you don't have only one set of skills. You have a vast array of skills, whether it's literary analysis, being able to critique historical sources, being able to assess a piece of art. You have this huge wide range of skills. And so you're particularly employable in things like asset management, law, consultancy, as well as maybe staying in the field of classics. Okay, so classics, as Richard Dawkins has said, teaches people how to think. And that's why you see a lot of classicists ending up in things like journalism, broadcasting, and then often retraining in another degree, maybe even after their first degree, and going on and working in another subject area. I've put two famous people who have studied classics at university, obviously J.K. Rowling, but lesser known, Chris Martin was also a classicist as well. So hopefully this has left you with some food for thought, and you will seriously consider thinking classical civilization at A-level. If you have got any questions, please just get in touch with me. My email is hclark@cliftoncollege.com, and I will try and answer any questions that you've got. And I will leave you with one final slide, which is really the thing to take away, that classics at A-level, classical civilization, is the ultimate in interdisciplinary subject. And also we do have great trips. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.